the Christian worldview and Judeo-Christian foundation, which our country is built upon, though it would take a religious society to keep it up. We just can't have the Constitution, otherwise it will be manipulated. I digress. Here's my question to you. Greed, greed, greed.
That's a good digression, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. It doesn't work without some kind of Judeo-Christian foundation.
Yes. Yeah, well, and that's to highlight, because I know we've talked about this before, but I think we're going to hear more and more about it, because whenever the government tries to forward its power by forcing employers to raise wages, however it may be, through or establish something within the government bureaucracy where they can step into a business and dictate what is fair in their estimation, not what is lawful, so to speak, but what is fair, because it gets a little gamey there. The question I have is, how do we deal with, is our system based on greed? Because people who criticize the free market go back to that Gecko. I mean, think about it. I'm going back to Gordon Gekko, and I'm an Oliver Stone view of the world. I don't know how much dope I have to smoke to get there, but I do. Or I haven't. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying that's the view. Greed is good, and greed drives this economy. Tell me, Jerry, you've talked about this before, but I always think this lesson, we need to hear it at least once every quarter. Tell me, is greed driving our economy, and is America built on greed?
Well, no. The free market system, which is the traditional American system, the Founding Fathers were very heavily influenced by the free market thinking of Adam Smith, and particularly of a lesser-known disciple of his named Jean-Baptiste Say. As a matter of fact, Jefferson, when he was traveling around the United States, took with him a copy of Jean-Baptiste Say's Principles of Economics. So Say and Smith, and back before them, John Locke, and he was heavily influenced by a bunch of Christian thinkers who everyone has forgotten about from the 1400s and 1500s. They invented free market economics. Free market economics was not invented by economists. It was invented by theologians. It became very popular among especially Protestant theologians in Northern Europe and philosophers. It came down through them, through Smith, whose book, The Wealth of Nations, was published in 1776, and through Say, so it had a big influence on the American system. We're based on that. It is not based on greed. That is a misunderstanding promulgated by some libertarians who simply haven't studied the history, especially Ayn Rand and her disciples. Adam Smith, in his theory of moral sentiments, places empathy at the center of a free society. Our natural ability to live out at a kind of a gut emotional level the principle, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So that's the basis of a free society according to Adam Smith. And that's what he wrote about in the theory of moral sentiments. To put yourself in somebody else's position, to say, if I were on the other side of this law or on the other side of this transaction, would I think I was being treated fairly or correctly? And if not, then I shouldn't do it. That's the basis of a free society. Not coercion by the state, but not greed either. Now, what people will say, and I had a debate with Donald Luskin on the Kudlow show about this, because Luskin's view was that selfishness drives the economy, that's what Adam Smith said. That is not what Smith said. What Smith said is that a free market system is so powerful that in the providence of God, even greed can be turned in such a way that it can serve other people's needs. What Smith said is, although a free society is based on empathy, based on love thy neighbor, based on the golden rule, nevertheless, God has designed the universe in such a way that even if you don't have that virtue, even if you don't love your neighbor, even if you hate your neighbor and you don't care about them, in a system of free exchange, you have to do something useful for your neighbor in order to get your neighbor to freely give you money so you can buy the things that you want. And what Smith said is, it's as though an invisible hand does this. And I did a frequency analysis of invisible hand, that phrase, in Theory of Moral Sentiments and in The Wealth of Nations. By the way, The Wealth of Nations, that title, is from the book of Isaiah. So this is biblically based stuff. Isaiah said that the wealth of the nations will flow to Jerusalem, to the Messiah. And it's perfectly clear, he made it perfectly clear, Adam Smith did, that when he says the invisible hand, he means the hand of the deity, he means the hand of providence. So people have taken that to mean Adam Smith says greed is good, capitalism says greed is good, societies work better based on greed. No, societies work better based on empathy. But given the reality of human nature that some of us are going to be greedy and some of us are going to be selfish, the best system for when you have a certain proportion of people who are greedy and selfish is a system of free exchange, because that's the system that incentivizes you to act like you care about your neighbor even if you don't happen to care about your neighbor. The worst system for when people are greedy is the system of state control, because then people's greed, you don't have to do anything useful for your neighbor to get money, to get power, to get wealth. You just have to have power to coerce it out of them. So this whole idea that our system is based on greed, and even pro-free market people argue that's, first of all, it's false historically. It's false biblically. It's false just in terms of social philosophy. Societies based entirely upon greed fall apart, and they end up as socialists. And also, it's a terrible way to defend the system, because most people have an inherent sense, whether they're Christians or Jews or not, they still have an inherent sense that you can't trust greedy, selfish people, people who are always looking out for themselves. And so if they think that the free market system is based on greed, they won't trust that system. It's a lousy way to sell the free market to people who are on the bubble about it.
And it's lousy and false.
And it's false, yeah.
And Jerry, we've got about 3 minutes left, but I think this would be a good time to
that last answer was kind of long, wasn't it?
No, believe you me, I'd have you on for 3 hours and I'd get the other 2. I'd love it. But here it is: libertarians, and I want to say this with respect, because I respect people's belief. Hey, they believe in freedom, but when you talk about the fact that we are based on a Judeo-Christian foundation, a biblical foundation, that's what our founders understood and understood human nature.
Yes.
Because when I look at libertarianism and I think about euthanasia, I think about abortion, people can rationalize and say, hey, that's their personal liberty to do so. Yet we put something a bit higher and we say, no, we don't believe in that. We believe that a society should be based on the protection of life, which supersedes everything else, which our Declaration outlined, then was obviously later captured within our Constitution and Bill of Rights. But your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's right. We have a view that something is higher. God is higher than all creation, but man is higher than the rest of the creation. Jesus, when he said, "Take no care for the morrow, consider the lilies," he made the point that you are more valuable. He said, "You are more valuable to your Father than all of these," which means that one human being out of the 6.5 billion people on Earth, one human being, one human life, is more valuable than the entire wealth of the human race. That's the Christian view. So why do we believe in the free market system? Because we believe that one human being is really valuable, which means they ought to be free to be what God created them to be, which is creative and productive. And because the free market system is the system that gives that human being not just the best chance at living out their calling of being creative under God, it gives them the best chance of surviving past infancy, because before the free market system, death in infancy was extremely common. It gives them the best chance of if that human being grows up to be a mother, of living through, childbirth. It gives them the best chance of living past 40 or 50, which is the life expectancy before the rise of free market capitalism. It gives them the best chance of being virtuous, because coerced charity isn't charity at all. So because we believe in the dignity of the individual human being and the family, that's why we believe in the free market system.
And I want to make this real quick. I know there are pro-life libertarians. I'm not speaking to you. I'm speaking to the people that say, keep your social issues to yourself. We just need to focus just to economics. It's all about our cultural foundation. Go ahead and close it out, Mr. Bowyer.
Well, the libertarians have something right, which is that God wants us free. But I think the problem with libertarianism, it looks back to the 19th century as sort of the golden age of freedom. But the 19th century was also the golden age of evangelical Christianity in the English-speaking world. If you want a libertarian society, you have to reject a libertarian philosophy and embrace a Christian one. If you embrace a Christian philosophy instead of the philosophy of selfishness and the sovereign individual, that is the thing historically which has gotten us to what the libertarians really want, which is a free system, a system of natural liberties with maximum freedom and a minimum stake.
Jerry Bowyer, chairman of Bowyer Research and Forbes contributor and great friend of this program. We love you, man. Have a great weekend. Take care.
God bless. Bye-bye.
God bless. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Arnold Allard will be with us on the flip side talking disability, the disability racket, the industry built on gaining government benefits, but are they doing it honestly? AFR Talk.